Welcome back to Bluegrass. It's a beautiful August afternoon. I'm out with my friend Susie and my friend Jay. And Susie, well, come on over here, Susie. Let's show them what you're up to. So Susie shows up today and she says, "Hey, Stonnie, do you have any barrels?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course I got some barrels." She said, "I'd like to see if my dog can climb 3 barrels." And I was like, "Why?" She said, "Well, I saw it on Instagram." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." All right, so Susie, show them what you're up to here. Okay, and so this is about how it goes, right? Susie comes up here and she knows that her dog is good at climbing and good at jumping and good at running. Overall, just has a lot of athleticism, right? Yes. Okay, and she saw something on Instagram where there was some kind of argument about some barrels, and she thought to herself, "Well, I wonder if my dog would jump barrels." So she comes out here and she says, "Hey, dog, jump these barrels." And the dog won't jump the barrels. So I posted on Instagram, I was like, "Hey, what should I do next? I mean, what's going on here?" Okay, so we're gonna back up and we're gonna ask Susie what she thinks is going on. So Susie comes up to the jump, to these 3 barrels. She says, well, yeah, she says hup up, which is a catch-all term we use for negotiating obstacles, and her dog refuses, okay? So whenever I'm trying to track down a problem, I ask myself 3 questions. Number 1, are my expectations in this particular circumstance reasonable? So Susie, do you believe your dog has the athleticism and proprioception to successfully navigate these 3 barrels?
Yes.
Okay. If the answer to my first question is yes, then I move on to my second question, which is, have I clearly and concisely articulated my expectations in this particular situation? So Susie, do you feel like by walking up here like you've walked up to 100 other jumps, okay, a bunch of trees, brush piles, things like that, and telling her hup, which is our catch-all term for negotiating obstacles, do you feel like you're doing a good job of like conveying your expectations in this situation?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Susie is not 100% for sure that Kasha understands, because this is all a little bit different. It's similar but different, and dogs don't generalize well. So she's not sure if the dog understands that she would like her to navigate these 3 barrels, okay? But let's say for me, let's say I think maybe Kasha, maybe she does understand. I know she's capable of doing this, and I think Susie's doing a pretty good job as a handler of telling Kasha she'd like for her to negotiate these obstacles. Okay, so if my answer to question number 1 is yes, and my answer to question number 2 is yes, so it's a reasonable goal that's been clearly articulated, my next question is, am I offering sufficient motivation for this behavior to be exhibited, right? So what are you offering in terms of motivation for her to do something that's relatively hard when climbing this barrel and spending a little extra time climbing this barrel is interfering with her getting to run around and chase birds and play with these other dogs? See, so sometimes you can have a reasonable goal. You can articulate your goals in that situation very, very clearly, but you're in what's called a relative motivational deficit, and you guys can kind of see her nose is up in the air where she's smelling at birds and stuff, okay? So it might just be a question of not, can you do it? And it might not be a question of, do you know I'd like for you to do it? But it might simply be a question of like, am I providing a reason for you to do it? Now, generally in dog training, we have 2 kinds of reasons for doing things. The dog can do something to get something that it wants, or it can do something to avoid getting something that it doesn't want. So on the plus side, when you walk up here, what are all the things that are in play on the want side? So you're going to walk up here and you're going to sound nice.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have some food?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so what Susie's offering, let's do it again. So what Susie is offering is she's offering to pet the dog and to praise the dog and to give the dog some treats. But now this dog gets petting and praising and treats all just for like walking nicely on a leash, and all of a sudden we're asking her to do something a lot harder. Okay, so show us what you're willing to give. So she shows the treat. Now she's going to bring her treat up over this, which all this seems perfectly reasonable, you know? And Kasha's like, well, that's just too hard. Okay, so in this instance, maybe if Susie had some steak, maybe if she had something better, maybe the dog put a little bit more effort, but we're in a relative motivational deficit, so we don't have enough on the plus side to make the dog want to do it. So we have another option. What would that other option be?
We lessen the obstacle first.
Oh, yeah, you skipped ahead. Yeah, okay, so Susie's been coming out to my place too long, right? Okay, in general, we have this other option, which is I can take this leash, okay, and I can just make it uncomfortable for this dog to not comply with my clearly articulated expectations, right? And listen, I'm 100% sure that this dog, given her level of athleticism, if I put a little bit of force into play here, okay, that I can get her to jump these barrels. All right, but Susie, considering that you just came out here to hang out and play with dogs, and your dog's a good dog in general, like if you can solve this with like kind of the more fun and positive way, okay, versus just the direct do it because I said so way, what would you choose today?
I would probably choose trying to get something that she would definitely want to do on that side of the barrel.
Okay, so Susie wants she wants to take this exercise and make it something that the dog wants to do. So we'll start off and we'll think about this just like we think about eating an elephant. Susie, how do you eat an elephant?
In small pieces.
One bite at a time, okay? All right, so now here's what we can do. We can break this whole jump down and we can get some other dogs out and we can practice 1 barrel, 2 barrels, work our way up to 3, or I can take this leash and I'm pretty sure that this is gonna work, and if we were in a bind, I don't think this is unreasonable, I can force her to climb these barrels. This is a matter of your own personal perspective and desires. What do you want to do? Do we need this dog to jump these barrels today?
We do not need her to.
Okay, so in general, you don't like to force her to do things that you don't need her to do.
Correct.
So you're going to look like this, like more of it's like an intellectual puzzle. You want to see if you can't like break it down into pieces that where like you and the dog conquer it a little bit at a time.
Right.
Okay, all right, well that's what we'll do. All right, so I'm going to break these barrels down and then we'll come back and we'll show you how we, you know, break behavior change into their component parts. And this is how we would normally do something around my place. Okay, Susie, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take, we're going to put these out of the way. We're going to grab us a block. We're going to make this as easy as possible, okay? So this barrel started off that high off the ground, okay? By building me a ramp, now the first step is only going to be this high off the ground, and to make it even easier, watch. I'm going to make the first step only that high off the ground. Okay, so now we have 1 barrel, 3 blocks, and a platform on that side. Okay, now see if you have any trouble with that. I want you to use the same words, same basic body mechanics, okay? See if you have any trouble. Okay, did you feel like you had any trouble?
No.
Okay, now the only thing I would try to do a little bit differently if we were speaking in terms of like doing this perfectly, and this is what you always have to resist the urge to do, and Jay, we were talking about this earlier, is like pulling on this leash. If you're trying to be pretty positive, you want to look at the leash and like a seatbelt in a car. You don't want to use it any more than necessary, right? So you might use your food or you might just use your vocal inflection posture. But what we want to do here, we want to take this hand and kind of guide her and encourage her, and as much as possible let that leash hang. Come on, up, 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 up. See? If we can, listen, I'm not Safety Sally here. I'm not worried about hurting the dog. I'm not worried about the dog not liking me because maybe I'm going to use a little physical discipline on a dog now and then. If I don't have to, I'm not going to. And that's in play. Come on there. That's in play all the time, okay? Just even this amount of pulling her with the leash is going to cause a little bit of resistance, you know, okay? And it's perfectly okay if your dog resists, you know, the leash to force compliance. But when you're trying to break behaviors down into the most, you know, like the smallest elements, let's remove as much pressure as possible and show the dog that things can be done, you know, in a cooperative manner. So look, leash hanging on my finger. Hup, hup, hup. Very nice. Okay, so let's try to do that. Let's try to see if we can get it done with a little bit less force. Now this dog will start getting bored here in a second. And you know, you'll see her head go up and her like nose go out. And when that happens, like, you know, you might see Susie bringing the leash back into play. So I'm not pretending at all like you can train dogs and like there's never an element of compulsion. I'm saying what we're doing is every day trying to lessen that element of compulsion. Okay, so slacken your leash and then, very nice. Okay, all right. Now I know this dog pretty well, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and kind of go through this pretty fast. So watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move this backwards a little bit and I'm gonna get us 1 more barrel. Okay, now, it's gonna be a little harder, it's gonna be a little scary. Now remember, so you're offering motivation, right? But the dog, the motivation is relative to the environmental factors. 1 barrel, when we had that wedged in there real good, okay, it didn't like move around a lot, okay? you know, the dog's like perceived downside for messing up is not very high. 2 barrels, they start to get a little shaky, okay? So we might not get quite as good a compliance here. Good. Now, you see where you're kind of losing her attention there a little bit?
Yeah.
She's like, listen, like I know there's birds over there in those bushes, and I got things to do. I'm a dog bred to move away from a handler, not work in conjunction with a handler. So, like, we're being pretty good. We've broken this down into like bite-sized pieces for her. She's doing pretty good with it, okay? But let's try to maybe pay her a little bit more and a little bit more often just to keep her interested. Let's sweeten the pot a little bit, okay? So, come here, nerd. Okay, so we'll get her and we'll go, hey, look what happens when you stay like, we kind of more attentive. So I'm gonna stage my treat in my hand. Very nice, good, right? Now, was that a lot of extra labor on my part?
Not at all.
Not at all. So for me, the amount of extra labor it takes to sweeten the pot, it's worth it, you know? Okay, go ahead, Susie. We'll get maybe one more successful rep there, and then I'm gonna add this other barrel, and I think we knock it out. Now this dog already has a good obedience foundation. She's already been on all of my small challenges course. She's been on the brush pile challenge. You know, this is just something new and novel. And always remember, dogs don't generalize very well, so it's very important to get out and have as much experience as possible, so that, like, even though they don't generalize well, they do learn to generalize, you know, I mean, okay, and good enough to get by. Okay, so Susie, you feel like you got a little bit better handle on what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so go over here. Now, we're fixing to completely change the dynamic of this exercise from her perspective. Okay, now from Susie's perspective, we went from here to here to here, okay? But everything Susie's looking at is like knee level and below, okay? So when you look at that, does it seem like it's particularly daunting?
Not at all.
No, okay? But let's look at it from the dog's perspective. See, the dog's down here, okay? So see how this is like just about jawline level? So that would be like you, if I was telling you to jump these obstacles, but the obstacles were like this. Does that seem hard?
That would be
If I said, hey, Susie, walk over this, it doesn't seem very hard. But what if this, in comparison to your body size, was that tall?
Yeah.
Okay, now imagine 3 barrels, and that's a good sized dog. But 3 barrels is now 40% taller than your dog's head. Okay, if I ask you to climb something almost as tall as a basketball goal, like, does it seem like it'd be easy?
That would be daunting.
Right, so guys, I'm really big on this, but always try to have empathy with your dogs, okay? Because what seems like a big deal to you, okay, or not a big deal to you, that's from your perspective. You see what I'm saying? That's not from the dog's perspective. From the dog's perspective, you got to get down here and look and go, oh, I see. You know, I see what's going on there. Okay, so let me get this rigged up here. And all I'm doing here is I'm just kind of trying to secure these barrels a little bit, because I know if we have a bad experience the first time, then like that's gonna really hinder us, you know? Okay. All right, so that's pretty secure. And then I'll kind of hold it a little bit. All right, now I want you to try it, but I want you to go ahead and stage a treat in your hand a little bit, okay? So we're gonna sweeten the pot. And then what do I tell you about your emotion level? Like, you need to give what you expect to get, right? Okay, so you're doing something that now is effectively 100% harder, because this is twice as tall. So it's not 10% harder, not 20, it's 100% harder. So you're gonna need to give more if you want to get more. And you might even like start right there at that point and really go for it. Now hold on, let's wait for this helicopter to get out of the way. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Set, go.
You can do it. You can do it. Come on.
Okay, all right, that's good. Now, at this point, Susie has some adjustments to make. What Susie could do, she could go ahead and make this happen, because you're up there pretty far, right? You could make it happen, okay? But we decided today that we want it to be a cooperative endeavor, right? Okay. So what you're going to have to do, which I could do it for you, but I guess I'm not going to. But when I get right here, I'm going to have to really like make that dog want.
All kinds of confidence.
You're going to have to really like exude confidence here. Does that make sense?
Ready?
Yeah.
Cassie, come on, baby. Come on, you can.
There you go. Come on, up, 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 up. Oh my gosh.
Oh, good girl.
That's me. You see what I'm saying? Now something weird's happened, right? Okay, Susie, do you now know that you can do it?
Yes.
Okay, and now what does Kasha know?
She can also do it.
Okay. So we have to make a decision for today. Should we end on that? You think that's our best rep we can get? Because we always want to end on a good rep. Is that the best rep? You think you can get it just a little better?
We can try for a little better.
That, guys, is the eternal question in dog training. Should I do it one more time? All right. So what we should do is just stop and pick this up again next time, right? But I have a lot of confidence in Susie. So Susie's going to come back here, and she's going to do it one more time, and then her dog can run and play, and we won't aggravate her for the rest of the day. Up, 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 up.
Good girl. Oh, what a girl.
Very nice. Okay. All right. So look, guys, that's what I think. You know. Now, if you choose to do it another way, just because you choose to do it another way, or because you have some ulterior motive for doing it the other way, or you just need the utility of getting it done right now, I'm not judging anybody. Okay. But Susie showed up, and she wanted to know how to climb 3 barrels, and so I just showed her, and I hope that gave you guys something to think about. I'll see y'all next week.